Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies bringing you another painting tutorial. This one is a very exciting one. Games Workshop very kindly sent me out the new Slaves to Darkness army box early to make some videos for review for you guys. And I decided to be a little bit bold because I decided not to use the miniature that I'm doing in this video today for Slaves to Darkness army. I decided to use it for a 40k army. The model in question, of course, is the brand new beautiful Daemon Prince miniature. As it has the options to make it for 40k and Age of Sigmar, I decided to add it to my Night Lords army. So that's what we're going to get stuck into in today's video. Painting up a beautiful, vicious looking Night Lords Daemon Prince. Stick around and enjoy. And this is the stunning Daemon Prince in question, the one that I decided to build up as the 40k variant. I almost gave him the power pack just to really sell it, but I decided in the end to go with the wings because they're just so beautiful. I went for an all-over spray of Chaos Black, and then I gave him a heavy coat of like a Zenithal of Grey Seer, and that made it perfect to begin the contrasting stage. So for the skin of the demon, because I'm going for undivided, I'm going to mostly follow the Bellacore style of painting I did for a previous video. So that starts with Contrast Basilicanum Grey, and I applied this all over the skin. Now there's not nearly as much skin on this miniature as you might think, as he is actually wearing quite a lot of armor. As you can see, it goes from his feet up into the middle of his calves, I guess, and then it's armor all the way up on top of that. And it's pretty much the same for the rest of the body. Its legs are armored, it's got big gauntleted hands, big chest piece. Even the top of his tail has a bit of armor to it. So basically most of the skin is reserved for his feet, his tail, and his wings. He's got his big bulging neck and his head as well. So it doesn't take very long to get the contrast onto those, minus the wings, of course. That takes a little bit of time. And I do recommend you take your time when you're applying the contrast to the wings. You do want to load quite a lot of contrast onto the wings and then kind of manipulate and push that around until you get a nice solid coat. But just be very careful not to have pooling, because these bits are obviously sticking out of the top of a miniature. If someone walks over and takes a look at it on the gaming table, they are going to notice the wings fairly quickly. So therefore, if there are big kind of blobs of dried up paint on the end of those like hook membranes and stuff, which can happen if you don't pay attention, they're really going to stand out. So just try and take your time and get all of the little bits of skin. Like there's bits in between armpits and all those kind of things. And you do have to be careful not to miss any of them. But it was a nice challenge painting this miniature, and it's something I've looked forward to ever since it was revealed the first time in the reveals they did a couple months ago. I have been dying to get my hands on one and add it to the Night Lords army. And I'm sure this is by no means the last Daemon Prince you will see on the channel. When this thing is released individually, I hope to get my hands on quite a lot of them and do one for all of my other Chaos armies. At the moment, that would be, of course, Nurgle and Zinch. Perhaps Khorne Slaanesh will come after that. So now I decided to go for Skeleton Horde and do the leathery parts of the wings in this. So that's the center bits in between all of those spines. I hit with a Skeleton Horde. This is the same trick I used when I was painting up Bellacore, just to distinguish the difference between like the skin on his like body and stuff versus the bits that make him fly around the board. I think this adds a really nice bit of contrast between the different skin tones on the model, and I genuinely think it looks pretty awesome. So Skeleton Horde across that, and you can also do this to any of the like horns and protruding bits. So the horns on his head got done with Skeleton Horde, and the wrinkles up his like his forehead and stuff, they got done. It was a little bit later on in the process. I'd kind of forgotten about them until near the end, but you will see at the end that those bits are done as well. So just follow that through until you have a nice Skeleton Horde across all those pieces. And then it was time for a two-stage dry brush, just like I did on Bellacore, and it starts with Storm Vermin Fur, and we're aiming for, once again, all of the skin parts, including all of the wings. This is kind of the messy bit of painting. There's a reason I'm doing all of the skin first before I touch any of the armor, because the armor all sits kind of on top of all of the skin, so it's much easier to paint that and paint the skin in full before we go and do anything to the armor panels or anything sitting on top of that. So these dry brushes, of course, go up and down the wings, just trying to catch those like ridges. You can see how much the ridges start to be more pronounced, stand out. And that's the thing I was telling you about. When people come to a table, they're going to notice the kind of nice job you did on the wings. Tyrant Skull was used as the second and lighter dry brush across all of the skin. This really does just catch the raised edges, and you can see how carefully I am pressing the brush against the model. It is very light, same direction, even just slow movement, just so I have better control. There's one wing done versus one not done. And there's all the skin basically done for now. I know it doesn't look like much on the front, as the majority of them is armor, like I said. So let's get that Night Lord armor underway. And we're going to be using the same steps we did for my Night Lords painting videos. So Leviathan Blue was the contrast of choice to block in all of the armor panels on this miniature. It is, like every other Chaos miniature in the range, absolutely covered in trim. And those we will get to later on. But it doesn't matter if you hit the trim with Leviathan Blue early. You don't have to be particularly careful, but just know that there's quite a lot of it. So you'll save yourself some Leviathan paint and some time if you do try and avoid it as much as possible. I do quite like the detail on this miniature. I really do feel like it's a testament to the older variants of Daemon Prince, that old kind of Chaos Space Marine and Nurgle Daemon Prince style ones from before, where they did look like they were kind of bloated and overgrown Space Marines with the same kind of shoulder pads and armor and stuff, which is exactly what I wanted to. The last previous iteration of Plastic One was a nice model, and I think it suited Fantasy and Age of Sigmar better than it did 40k. At least in the Chaos Space Marine side of things, and the Chaos Demon Army, it suited it just fine. But this guy definitely screams something that used to be a Chaos Space Marine and has swelled with power and warp energy, and has given him this immense form. Retributor Armor Gold was used to block in all of the trim on this entire miniature. And like I said earlier, because it is a new Chaos Space Marine style miniature, there is absolutely tons of trim, and this is the bit where you will need to take your time. It's probably the most tedious stage of painting this miniature. In fact, it is 100% the most tedious stage. But just take your time, fine pointed brush, make sure that your paint isn't drying up and it's flowing correctly off the end of your brush, and just go for it. It is quite easy to see all of the bits that are supposed to be gold, and it will make a huge difference when all those bits and pieces are blocked in. I feel this is the stage that really made me feel like he was a Night Lord's Daemon Prince. And as you can see, quite a lot of gold. I did the hilt and pommel of the sword as well. I have a habit of doing all hilts and pommels of swords in gold. Lead Belcher was then used for all the other metallic parts, so there's a lot of chains holding on trophies, the blade of the sword, and any other bits and pieces like that around the miniature that you can find. There's some icons and stuff hanging off of his wings. Any bits that you think would look good in silver, you can of course do. You can even break up the quantity of gold if you don't want that much gold on your miniature. Maybe the whole center chest, skull and circular bit there, you can do in silver. Maybe the symbol in the middle of his shoulder pad, you can do that in silver as well, if you don't like the quantity of silver and want to change it up just a little bit. Or the quantity of gold, sorry. I for one like the idea of an exalted Daemon Prince who shows his kind of worth and value in many different forms, including the opulence of him. Flesh Tear's red was used for his loincloth, and the handle of his sword, the wrappings of his sword, are also going to be done in a deep, rich crimson color. Two reasons for this. One, I really like it. It works really well with the colors already on it, the blue and the gold. And two, Night Lords are kind of renowned for having some red in their color scheme, so this definitely ticks that box. Being careful now not to hit that silver chain and the skull that I painted with Skeleton Horde when I was doing that earlier, with the contrast, as that will of course overpower that color on the miniature. We'll definitely stain a skull or a silver chain with the contrast red. Then all that was left for the base coats was all of the piping on the miniature, so we went to Black Templar for this, and all of the piping sticking out of his chest piece. As you can see, it's quite a lot sticking out of his chest piece, but underneath and going around the sides. And any other bits of the miniature, I went for all of the spikes at the end of the wings, his fingernails, claws. I like them to be like an obsidian black sharp nails. And gotta remember, these are creatures of the warp. With all of those bits and pieces blocked in, it was time to shade the miniature, and I went for the same color I did for all of my Night Lords. I'm not touching the skin, I'm considering the skin finished. Since all of the bits that we did, blue, gold, silver, red and bone, are going to get a coat of the Kulia green shade. Some of you may think I'm absolutely psychotic for choosing this color, but it sits really well over the blue, and it gives the gold that kind of coppery tone, almost like slightly oxidized, and it works really well for the Night Lords theme. Of course, we'll be going over it with a bit of a silver later on to brighten it back up again. And how I'll be doing that is I'll be taking lead belcher and I'll actually be dry brushing all of the armor just to catch all of those gold bits. Once again, this may be a step where you think I'm going crazy, as I'm going to be hitting the blue quite a lot, and that's totally fine. I'm going to be layering up the blue anyway. The Leviathan blue was only supposed to act as a base coat, which I think it did a pretty good job of. This silver over the top definitely adds a really nice tone to the gold. Makes it look more ancient. And it will fit beautifully in with my Night Lords. As you can see, I've covered the blue in quite a bit of silver. So now it's time to go back into those bits and layer up those colors. This bit will make a huge difference. It really starts to pop now. Once the blue is applied, everything just looks really neat and really tidy. And this was actually a really enjoyable step. One clean coat gave me exactly what I wanted. Of course, using Night Lords blue for a Night Lords miniature. I didn't know whether I wanted to try and make any of the symbols of the sword or built into his gauntlet glow. I may go back and do that at a future date. I just wasn't 100% sure if that's the direction I wanted to go. Corn red was used to layer up the loincloth and the pommel of the sword. Very quick steps. Things I didn't do on camera, but I just threw quick coats on. I also did red eyes. I put some black over the teeth and then did a bit of Carrick stone to layer up the teeth. I did Screamer pink on the tongue. These were just super quick steps. I'm sure you guys know how to paint tongue and teeth and eyes. I've done it in a million videos before. I mainly want to show you guys how to get the skin and armor done on this beast. The only thing I was really stumped about was the gauntleted cannon that was mounted on his left arm. And for that I decided to go back to Carrick stone, the same thing I highlighted his teeth with, and give it kind of a bony, armory kind of color. I really did want, it was very difficult to figure out where the armor stopped and the like demonic gun started, if that makes sense. But after layering up with Carrick stone, I think it did hit the nail on the head. I was very happy with the end result. It didn't kind of overpower with any other strange colors, but it definitely made it stand out as something different to the already existing parts of the miniature. And with that, I had one completed Night Lords Daemon Prince ready to join the rest of my force on the tabletop. Cannot wait to do more of these miniatures. Okay guys, and there we have it, one Night Lords Daemon Prince ready to hit the tabletop and hopefully be seen in a battle report very, very soon. Of course, I went for the undivided style of Daemon Prince, as the Night Lords don't really go to any specific god, so I kept him with the muted grey tones for all of the skin on show, but then of course give him his beautiful Night Lords armor. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like, comment and subscribe. And if you really enjoy what I do and want to help me out even more, there's links to things like my Patreon below, which will give you access to a private Discord server where you can get involved with me with monthly showcases and painting competitions and stuff like that. Once again, thank you guys for watching to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.